Um, I was a part of ITA during high school. I applied my freshman year of high school and I got accepted into the program my sophomore year. And that was a time for me. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, this is a college program. I'm only a freshman in high school. Like, there's no way I'm going to be going to college, stuff like that. And I vividly remember we were in the auditorium and it was Ron, Chris Kilgore, and who was the other? Bobby Skenador, I think, was with. And I was like, they sat me down and they're like, you should try this. If you don't think you're going to do it, you should just try it. Like, you can always say no. So I was like, okay. So I got accepted into the program, started my sophomore year, going into sophomore year. I started in the summer and I loved every minute of it. There were some times where I was like, I can't do this. But then like Chris and Ron and all of them would talk to me and be like, you got this. Like, I believe in you. Like, you can do this. Well, I ended up graduating from ITA and high school and I got accepted into UW-Madison. So I have been here ever since. And I actually, my freshman year of college, I applied to work for ITA. So I'm back with ITA. I've been there ever since. I am a student hourly. I teach juniors in high school, computer systems and programming, and I've been loving every minute of it. They're like a second family to me. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Or would you like to save questions for the end? Do you have any preferences?
No, that's fine to do questions now. Thanks, Samantha. Any questions? Yeah, right on. Thank you. Any questions for Samantha right now? We're going to hear from another ITA alum. We can also go to questions after that, but if there are any right now. Okay, ponder that while we hear our next speaker, and then we'll revisit this. Yeah, looking forward to hearing. Please join me in welcoming in Elias Fox-Baker. Elias, welcome in, and please introduce yourself. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say thank you, Ron, for inviting me today, reaching out. My name is Elias Fox-Baker. I am a enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, Lakes and Okanagan Band, as well as my grandfather's enrolled in the Squamish Nation out of British Columbia. So I'm an ITA alum from the Madison site. So yeah, I became aware of ITA through my mother. She's pretty involved in the community here, and I remember like in middle school, she just kind of like, hey, you should sign up for this. You like technology stuff. So I was like, okay, you know, and also they came to my middle school. So that really sealed the deal when it came to ITA. In ITA, I made lifelong friends. One of my best friends who I room with right now went to a different high school than me. And I would have never met him without ITA. And so I'm really thankful for those relationships and friendships that I established while being within the program. And other than that, I also learned really useful skills, working with OW editions, programming, coding with Python, and photography, and a lot more, you know, over those 4 years of the pre-college program. So I'm just looking at the questions real quick. What was that? When I came here to UW, one skill that I actually really do use to this day, I also work for the Native American Center for Health Professions. I work as the kind of podcast production assistant. I work for their podcast called Medicine Talkers, and the main platform application that I use is Adobe Editions. And I learned that skill from ITA, so I kind of got a job from being an ITA. And I mean, they're also looking for ITA students as well. So, but that's something that that's how ITA helps me in my college career. Other than that, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm a third-year student here. I'm a history major with a certificate in American Indian Studies. I sing with Madtown Singers here, which is a drum group on campus. I'm also on leadership for the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. I also work with the National School District with ACES as well, and also a member of Sheek or Waupochick. So I think that's kind of what I got. So yeah, thank you for having me today.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, so good to hear from you too. Thank you, Samantha and Elias. Like to welcome in Kira Adkins. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. So participants in the forum, if you have questions, we'll go to those at the end. Let's hear from Kira, and then I know I have a couple questions, and but I don't want to hog up all the airtime. So hopefully some others will step up too. Kira, welcome in, and please introduce yourself, and thanks for coming. Passing the mic to you, Kira.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Kira Adkins. I am a sophomore here at UW-Madison. I am majoring in legal studies and a certificate in environmental studies and American Indian studies on a pre-law track. I am the social activism chair for Waupochick. So that's kind of what I was asked to like come in and talk about a little bit. I also was a part of the FIG that Michelle Cloud mentioned earlier, my freshman fall semester, I believe it was. And that's kind of how I got to Waupochick right now, so I was involved in a FIG all about Indigenous sciences through the Earth Partnership Program. And then through that program, there was about 10 people, I believe, 10 kids, and we all had around the same classes. We had 3 classes together, and then we all had discussion together as well. Through the program, I was able to meet Bella, who's also on Waupochick leadership right now. And then that's how I ended up in Waupochick, and that's also how I ended up on leadership currently. And I have the connections that I have with the Indigenous community. I'm Oneida, so I was really close with my Oneida family. So through moving here, it was really difficult to kind of understand like where the community was. You kind of got to get like an in through an in, and my in was Bella through the FIG. So then that's how I ended up here. Currently, Waupochick leadership, I am the social activism chair. If you don't know what Waupochick is, we are the student kind of Indigenous group here on campus. We are housed out of the ISC, which is the Indigenous Student Cultural Center. But our events and our activities are not just for Indigenous students, and it's not just for undergrad. It's just about being in community and about sharing kind of like our culture with other people and with people coming from similar backgrounds.
Thanks, Kira. Good to hear from you. I'd like to welcome in our participants for questions. Let's engage with our speakers a little bit. Our first session was a bit rushed, but we did have some time for engagement. I'd like to invite our forum participants to engage with Samantha and Elias and Kira if folks have questions. I'll get us started while my colleagues here are pondering. This is a question for any of you, whoever wants to answer it. I'm curious about, in terms of support services for you all at UW-Madison. Kira talked about being in community and being part of Waupochick, and so that resonates with me. I wanted to hear about other services for support for you all that help you with your college comfort, with your comfort level, with your academics, whatever it is, whether it's academics, personal health, cultural health. I'm curious what contributes to that for you all on campus. So I guess I want to hear, I'll shoot that to you first, Samantha. Can you share a little bit about at UW-Madison what's helping? And it can be people or programs, whatever. Just would like to hear about it. Thank you.
Yeah, some things that are helping me at campus, it was more so freshman and sophomore years because I was just getting acclimated to campus life. because I'm a first generation college student. So I've never experienced, or like none of my family members have ever experienced this before. I was an active member in Wunk Sheek quite a bit my freshman and sophomore year. I've just gotten busy with student teaching this year and last year. So I've not been there as much as I want to be. But yeah, most definitely Wunk Sheek has been there as a service that makes me feel comfortable, as well as my coworkers for ITA. That is a huge shoulder I can lean on if I'm struggling with anything to ask for help.
Yeah, awesome to hear. Thank you, Samantha. Elias, did you want to weigh in here?
I think for like personally, I graduated in 2020, so that was the pandemic year. So everything was all remote there. And so my first year, freshman year, was kind of just online. And then my second year, I had some mental health things I needed to work through. So I was absent from that. So it's kind of my first year being here at Wunk Sheek. And I think it's really important just to be with community and just try to engage with one another. I think it's just super important. I also think we have ACTS. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but we have our ANTs. I believe there's like mental health resources within that and academic resources as well. If I'm correct, I believe so. So yeah, that's what I got.
Oh, okay. What was the ANTs acronym? What is it? What?
I'm really bad at acronyms.
Are you kidding right now or not? No. Because I haven't heard about that. I'm curious. I saw Kira laughing super hard, so I'm like, okay, wait, did I miss something? Okay.
No, I just don't really know what it stands for. Kira probably knows.
Kira,
not me. Yeah.
Kira, help us out. What's so funny? You're muted.
The ANTs isn't an acronym.
Oh, it's not?
No.
I swear that
they just call themselves the ANTs.
No, Lina Martin, they've made a silly acronym. Well, they use aunties not to form an acronym, but they made a kind of phrase out of aunties. Yeah. So it's like advancing unity, native,
it's technically the name is like Native Nations Subcommittee for like UW Student Wellbeing or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But then I remember being in the meeting and Lina saying, we should just be called the ANTs at this point. And then those people started calling them the ANTs. I didn't know I don't know if it's a real acronym. I thought that was like, I didn't know that was their real name. I didn't think it was an acronym.
Okay, that's awesome.
I thought it was something like real elaborate.
It's a real title. It's a real title.
I didn't know that.
If you look it up in the directory under Laura Hebing, who's the Director of Academic Coaching and Tutoring Services, ACTS, you'll see, I put the link to Laura's directory, and you'll see her title is DEI Individual Student Services Coordinator, comma, on
the Indigenous powwow. So, yeah, and thank you both for agreeing to share a little bit of your journey here. And Kira, nice to see you here. Very impressive journey for you as well. And congrats on all your work at UW-Madison. But, you know, it really is interesting when we see our incoming students, because, you know, we get to meet them when they're kind of teenagers, right? and early, like, well, Elias was about to be a rising freshman, and Samantha a rising sophomore, and still kind of, you know, worrying about high school stuff. And now look at all the professional, you know, future leaders here that have evolved into, you know, campus leaders and the contributions they're making on campus and then going forward. So I shared some kind of boring data yesterday about our breakdown of where folks went. We're happy when it's somebody's best fit. You know, Samantha, when you came down to the SRE experience, you probably had never heard so many sirens in your life when you were in the residence hall there at next to Gordon, right? That's a little different nightlife than what you're used to in Minocqua. So, you know, like I said yesterday, this campus is huge. We want students to make the most of it, but our alumni, we're just as happy if they go to Stevens Point or the better fit for them. Of course, we're thrilled when they come to UW-Madison and come to work for the program as well and give back that way. But there's all these contributions that are impacting fellow Native students and other you know, BIPOC students on campus. And so, so anyway, yeah, thank you. And this is always the hearing from students is always what excites me.
Excellent. Thanks, Ron. We have time for one more question for our students. Folks, any other questions for Samantha, Elias, and Kira?
Jessie, this is Jeff. So I hope they stick around. But so I'm with the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council. I'm going to present after this section of it. But one of the issues that we have is finding tribal students for our internship program. And I just, any thoughts you guys have on where you get this, where you hear about internships or what interest? And this is mostly driven by the USDA. We've made a real effort, including being with this group, is to get information out, including our application deadlines and everything. We have 10-week internships during the summer. You can either be placed with a tribe. Our preference, of course, is to put you with your tribe in Wisconsin, where you're from, and also with different USDA programs like the Forest Service, and they have various other ones in a lot of different work. But yeah, any thoughts you guys have on internships and thoughts on internships and what attracts you to them, or how we can do a better job of getting the word out there?
I can kind of say what Wunk Sheek does when it comes to like when we receive stuff. So we'll receive stuff in our email for like Native students and opportunities, and then we'll just mention it at our general body meetings. We'll kind of get annoying about it, and then we'll like email it out multiple times, because sometimes college students just don't check their email, to be honest. And then when it comes to just like UW-Madison, how I hear about opportunities, or like how I even knew about Wunk Sheek like coming into the year, that was all through Laura, who does ACTS, which is like academic coaching and tutoring. And a lot of people have like a Canvas page for that. So then you get Canvas notification when she starts to like post stuff. So that's how I would say that's the best way to at least get UW-Madison students' attention, is either through Wunk Sheek, which is like pretty broad and we're always at the house, so we can put it everywhere, and then through Laura, through ACTS.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can kind of speak for ITA, like the tribal sites at Lac du Flambeau and Oneida. We have internships for our students. They're rising senior year. So they're the summer between their junior year and senior year, they have the opportunity to do internships and get that workplace experience if they want. We're kind of switching to like, if they already have a job, they don't have to quit their job for the summer to do this internship. But sometimes there are students that don't have a job that want that internship experience. So maybe reaching out to ITA and seeing if like that would be an opportunity for our students to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add, you know, as one of the sharers of information on our general listserv. So we have the Waupochick listserv that we created back in 2003. And we've just been loading students. I think we have 1,344 members on that listserv now. So there's a lot of people on it. And so it's just put out there, right? But to really, to have a student seriously consider an opportunity, you know, we need to talk to them about it. Somebody needs to be face-to-face to talk to them about it. Like asking a student to cold call or cold email an office, even though it's other Indigenous offices, you know, it's just something that's likely not going to happen. If it's Laura saying, you need to talk to my good friend Jeff, my friend Jeff will hook you up, you know, that's a whole different kind of handoff of information. So I kind of think about, you know, how do we get you either Zoom wise in front of students or something where they can make a face and a name connection. Because even though it's a wonderful opportunity, they might be interested in that opportunity, it's still kind of strangers to them, and engaging strangers can take a lot of courage to do as a young learner. And so I just say, you know, the more we can make faces and names and direct handoffs, I think the better we see students take advantage of opportunities on campus. So, you know, getting Laura to know you, and so Laura can say, my buddy Jeff's going to hook you up. He's the Uncle Jeff going to take care of you, you know. So I think if once we get to those places where people realize that we have trusting and relationships with one another, then these handoffs might be a little more efficient. That's just someone old talking who throws a lot of information on the email, knowing that it's 99% going to be ignored because it's so depersonalized in the way it's shared. But it's the one way we have to share information rapidly. So just kind of reminding about that.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, good discussion, folks. So Kira, Samantha, and Elias, any closing thoughts for us? Closing thoughts.
Just thank you for having us.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The thanks is coming right back at you. Thank you for joining in today, and then also thanks for sharing about your educational pathways. This is, like Ron said, this is always a really exciting part of our forum, and we're kind of a small group tonight, but we are recording this. Sorry I didn't give you a heads up, Samantha, before I hit record. I felt bad. I was like, the robot's like, we're recording now. I'm like, oh, sorry about that. So anyway, we are recording, so we'll share this, and it's always good to hear from you all about what got you here, and then so we can fortify our own work as well with hearing from you what's helpful. So that's good to know. Rach, I know you're on too. So some resources were shared, and some people's contact info was shared. So we can make sure that when we do our follow-up that we share some of these folks' names who were mentioned, Jeff, specifically with your question, and building out these networks. So Rach, if you can help me capture that, and when we meet up Monday and debrief this, we'll be sure to share those contact folks for you, Jeff, with the organizations that were mentioned, and the offices is what I meant, really, who were mentioned. Okay, folks, so students, Samantha, Elias, Kira, you're welcome to stay on. I know you're busy, but feel free to stay on for this next portion. We're gonna be talking about internships, so we'll go to that now. Thanks, folks, appreciate you all being here together. I'm gonna transition us now into talking about internships. This has already kind of come up, so this is a good segue. And I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker, a friend and ally of Oneida Nation, currently serving as the director for the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council. Good to be in alliance, be working together with you, Jeff Mears. Welcome in. I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and I'll make you a co-host too, so you can share. If you have images you want to share, you're ready to go. Okay, welcome in, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. All right, I think we're all set. So thanks, Jesse, for the opportunity to present today. Again, like Jesse said, my name is Jeff Mears. I'm a citizen of the Oneida Nation, and I'm executive director of WCAC. I wanted to share this opportunity with you guys. I'm going to talk a little bit about our internship program, and I just want to share some of the issues we have and a little bit about WCAC and who we are. So WCAC is a 501c3 nonprofit. We work with the tribal nations in Wisconsin on natural resource and agricultural issues on tribal lands. We have 5 staff, myself as executive director, Melissa Johnson as our pest survey specialist, Jonathan Pruitt, resource conservationist, Tom Melnarek, civil engineering technician, and Greg Gauthier, outreach and education coordinator. Tribal Conservation Advisory Councils were first authorized in response to the 1985 Farm Bill as advisory bodies to the USDA on tribal issues. And in 2001, WCAC was the first such council formed in the country. Some of the pictures we have up here are some of our interns. In the upper left is an intern that was placed with the Forest Service at the Kemp Research Station, where they worked with eDNA or environmental DNA to help monitor endangered and threatened fish species in national forests. Pictured in the upper middle, a photo is Jean Buffalo. She was the Red Cliff chair, and she was instrumental in starting WCAC. And sadly, Jean passed away in 2011, but I always like to acknowledge her and her work that she did. So it's just a picture of the tribes in Wisconsin, but the WCAC board is comprised of an appointed representative and an alternate from each of the 11 federally recognized tribal nations in Wisconsin. And at the lower left is Brothertown, the 12th tribe in Wisconsin, and have discussions. So I hope to get them included in WCAC too, along with the other 11 tribes. So if you didn't know that, I mean, the tribes are stewards of vast natural resources in the state of Wisconsin. You can see the numbers up there. There's 650,000 acres of tribal land in Wisconsin. You can see the forest, the lakes, the wetlands, the streams, and there's 22,400 square miles of ceded territory where tribes still have held on to the rights to fish, hunt, and gather. So it's a lot of area that tribes are stewards of. So just a little bit about some of our programs. I mentioned our resource conservationist and our civil engineering technician. We work with NRCS, and I know it's a lot of acronyms from the USDA, but this is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, to develop new standards and specifications. We added aquaculture resources, concerns to the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP, where you get reimbursed for some of these practices that you do. Many of our projects relate to establishment and care of wild rice beds and aquaculture ponds for producing trout and walleye. So what was really interesting working with USDA and WCAC is we had to convince the leadership of the USDA that cows in pens are the same as fish in ponds. That's the food source. And if you provide technical and financial assistance to the farmers for the cows in the pens, also have to do that for this aquaculture, which they do now. So it was really interesting to try to work with them and looking at agriculture a little different, especially from the tribes, what was important to them. So pictures on here on the left is the aquaculture ponds at Lac de Flambeau. And again, WCAC worked with them, technical assistance. And on the right is a stream crossing replacement on the Beaver Dam at Mole Lake. These are just, I just wanted to share with you some of these partners that we have. On the left is some state programs like the DNR and DATCAP, and on the right are some of the federal partners that we work with in addition to USDA. So yeah, we work with a lot of different groups. We also have a lot of tribal partners. So on the left is some of the tribal groups that we work with. On the right is just subcommittees that we've set up. So in addition to the representatives and alternates, we want to engage with the staff and tribes. So we've broken down different subcommittees like fisheries and forestry and wetlands to include their staff in there. We bring in USDA experts. We bring them together as a chance to share and learn with each other. And I mentioned Tom and Jonathan. Greg Gauthier, our outreach and education coordinator. He's working with USDA on training for emergency response to agricultural invasive species. We also have a grant and a program to provide tribal producer safety training. We're going to be rolling that out soon, and we're working with GLFWC, Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, and the Lakota Ojibwe University. So it's going to be a really big program. We're going to provide that training for all the Wisconsin tribes and also Minnesota and Michigan. The nice thing, it's traditional type vegetable gardening, but it's also going to include things that are important to the tribes. It's going to be wild rice, hunting, gathering. We've already contracted with a hunter who's going to get a deer and show up the proper way to process that to reduce the risk of dangers from eating them. Our tribal pest survey program, that's Melissa Johnson. This is just a picture of what the interns will do. These two interns were both placed with a tribe, and they work and they get a lot of valuable field experience in pest detection and data collection. Some of the stuff that they're sampling for that you've heard of, emerald ash borer, oak ambrosia beetles, hardwood beetles, Japanese oak wilt. They help create community education materials about not moving firewood. So they work with the tribes in recognizing invasive species and how to prevent their spread. But a lot of this work, these samples are then sent into a USDA lab who analyzes them. And because of our interns, we had a lot of first detections like of emerald ash borer on different reservations before the state did in the area. So very proud of that program. History of the WCAC program then in 2009 was established, looking for students that were pursuing degrees in natural resources, biological sciences, agriculture, agricultural business, forestry, civil engineering, animal health and husbandry. Since 2009, we've had 76 students participate in the program. You can see the placements, and again, these are a lot of more acronyms for you from the USDA. NRCS is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the U.S. Forest Service. APHIS is the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, and they've got a veterinary service, a wildlife service. And there's also the PPQ, which is the Plant Protection and Quarantine, and the Risk Management Agency. So we've placed interns through the years in all these different agencies within USDA. So they've been all over the state. And then, of course, like I mentioned, we also have tribal placements. So just, one of the interesting, I just share this story, is one of our interns was actually majoring in culinary arts. Not the typical degrees that I mentioned that we were looking for, working for the USDA, but he was looking to be a chef, but he applied and he was accepted. So in addition to setting traps and surveying for invasive species, he also did outreach. So we had him doing outreach to the tribe that he was stationed with. And one of them he did was cooking with invasive species. And it wasn't the bugs, but what he shared is a garlic mustard and spinach ravioli with a garlic mustard pesto. So I thought that was pretty interesting to have a recipe for that. And it went over really well. We had a lot of interest in that. So that was pretty neat. It's just something different. So we're going to be advertising soon for our 2023 cohort. This is the 2022 summer announcement for our internship program. The qualifications, we look for an enrolled member of a tribe in Wisconsin in college. They have to be currently enrolled, 18 or older, and a minimum GPA of 2.5, pretty minimum stuff that we have. For our 2020 and 2021 summer internships, we had 6 positions open. We had the funding for 6 different positions, but for both years, we only had applicants for 3 interns for each summer. That's the first time that's happened, that we haven't filled them all. So we expanded, under the qualifications. Our first time that we advertised it and tried to, outreach all social media and direct emails, we were looking that they had to be members of Wisconsin tribe. We expanded that to include members of Minnesota or Michigan tribes. And then we even expanded again and said just for tribal members anywhere in the United States, and still only got enough applicants to fill half of the positions that we had. So I'm hoping this Native Education Pathways Forum can provide connections. We've already done that. I think that's great. Some of the stuff I've already heard tonight, but any additional ideas of how I can reach more Wisconsin tribal students. Some of the concerns, obviously, is, we're at a 3.4% unemployment rate in this country, the lowest in 50 years. I don't know if students are looking for internships like they used to. Obviously, with COVID in 2020, we didn't have any in-person internships. But the last 2 years, it's really been down. And Aaron, I know we talked about that too, is getting out to the colleges. There hasn't been the opportunities, but now that I make contacts with you folks there, when they come up again, WCAC will be down there to be in if you have whatever type of opportunities you have to directly meet with the students. But again, great opportunities. I look at internships as being an extension of the classroom. So I want them to get an experience in a lot of different areas. Some of the success we've had, Melissa Johnson, who ended up getting her master's degree in forestry from Purdue, 10 years ago, she was an intern for WCAC, and now she works for WCAC. One of the tribal reps that was appointed by their tribe, 2010, they were a WCAC intern. We also have some WCAC interns that have gone to work for the USDA. So good success stories there. We just want to, look for the opportunities of how we can make sure that we get these positions filled. So that was it. And there's the top share. So thanks for the time. I just want to go through that quickly and give you an overview of who WCAC is and talk about our internship program. So,
yeah, right on, Yonko, Jeff. I had a question. I'd like to invite other questions too before we transition to our next speaker. You mentioned a training for the tribes. Well, it was like about a third of the way through. What was the training that you're offering?
So there's 2 of them. And we do that quite a bit. One's it's an environmental resource. I'm sorry, emergency response plans. This is deal with agricultural invasive species, and you can think of things like avian influenza, for example, the devastation that has on bird populations. So to work so they can identify all those resources, proper disposal, proper handling, how they can stop that. And again, that's working with USDA APHIS, the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. The other training is for tribal producers. And those are the ones that are, growing vegetables, selling them at farmers markets or elsewhere, but provide training on safe handling. The nice thing working with Glyphwick and Lakota University is that we're also going to include more tribal specific type things, again, from hunting and fishing and gathering, not just the typical vegetable type growers. So we'll be able to provide that training. Glyphwick actually developed a model food code that tribes can adapt for hunters, to donate their food to the schools. But to make sure that safe handling is always in place and make sure we're not getting anybody sick. So yeah, those trainings should be rolling out. Again, with the pandemic, we've been struggling the last couple of years to move ahead, but we plan to roll those trainings out, and we'll rotate them around the state to get as many tribal producers as we can.
Okay. So you're developing those and then you're rolling them out, you said.
Yep.
Okay, great news.
Yeah.
Great news. That sounds so good. Yeah, I heard from Phoebe Quebec about that tribal food code that you're talking about. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you,
Jeff.
What we
worked with, yep.
Okay. Other questions, participants, bring it in. Other questions for Mr. Jeff Mears of Whitcack? Questions, suggestions for networking, anything come up? Okay. And folks, please join me in welcoming in Angela Waupochick of Menominee, who has a lot of different affiliations. So Angela Poso, good to see you. Good to be together. And I'll ask you to introduce yourself in the way that you choose. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you. And Wayne for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So, hi, I'm Angela Waupochick. I'm from Keshena, Wisconsin. Currently, I'm a PhD student at UW. So I'm in the Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology. My background is mostly tribal natural resource management. So spent a good 10 years out west doing a lot of wildland fire, working for the Forest Service, taking a lot of seasonal roles. I worked in the regional office in Albuquerque, just entering like fuels data for years, and came home about 10 years ago. I've been working for the Stockbridge Munsee tribe and occasionally MTE. Finally, about 4 years ago, I was like, all right, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go back to school. So currently I study hydrological impacts emerald ash borer. So I study, my research is here actually on the Menominee Reservation and the Stockbridge Munsee Reservation. So I have a sap flux network where I study evapotranspiration. And I also have a flux towers. And I guess I'll do I'm using my other mouse. Okay. Did you give me controls?
Yeah, you're co-host. So see how it goes.
Okay.
You have share screen.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So I don't know why I have this weird hearing impaired thing on there, but I guess it's good. So I'm here to talk to you guys about an internship and some youth work that I've been doing in parallel with my PhD studies. So I have no background, like formal education background, but I guess as a tribal manager, I know there's a huge need. And I had an opportunity to really fill this need. And even though I'm not an employee of MTE, I kind of pulled myself a seat at the table, and together we designed this program to teach kids about forestry. So partners and contributors. So fortunately, I have 3 great co-advisors that treat me like an adult, and if I want to do something, they let me do it. And I'm so thankful because I actually never had that in my career so far. They think it's a great idea. I actually, early in my PhD studies, I joined, I had 2 fellowships. One was with Science Public Service Fellows, and I used that experience to design the framework to introduce kids to forestry. And a little bit of a background about that is, it's like, maybe Jeff was saying, Menominee Tribal Enterprises does have 2 internships that they offer undergraduates every year, and the interest has less and less each year. And I knew, I guess my husband does work at MTE, and I'm like, you know what, we really need to start at high school. This, you know, we're not reaching the kids, and kids don't know if they want to go into forestry, and they need to really experience this before they even get to their undergrad. And right now, a big problem at Menominee Tribal Enterprises is we don't have the staff coming in. We get a lot of early career foresters that come there and they stay there for 2 or 3 years and then they take off. And that's really impairing program capacity. You know, we can't really build this program that we need when we have people taking in, you know, off really, you know, after a couple of years. So fortunately for us, we have a huge pool of our kids that grew up in this forest, and the idea is that we're gonna train our high school kids to work in our own enterprise, which seems easy, but it's, here we go. So I have 3 different kind of sections to the programming that we built as a fellow with Science Public Service Fellows, and now affiliated with Morgan Center for Public Service. So I'm using that fellowship to like finesse or just refine my program that I have here. And along the way, I've partnered with Earth Partnership and received funding from New Beginnings. And they actually funded the part of the program that I'm going to talk to you about today. Menominee Tribal Enterprises, after 2 years of really just bothering them, they're like, okay, we're going to work with you on this. And they this summer, they dedicated 3 weeks to teaching kids based on the framework that I created. And it works. So, and we feel it works. Also, I have to acknowledge Paul Stoy, who's one of my advisors on biological systems engineering, who put up the funds to fund my 2 interns that work on my research. So I started graduate school like a year before the pandemic hit. The original plan was that I would have undergrads come up from Madison to help me with my research, because of my research is really high maintenance, requires like kind of daily maintenance in the forest. And I couldn't have anyone up here. So I was like, made my 16-year-old son help me. And I was like, you know what? I don't need undergrads coming here. I can have high school kids help me, and I'm going to train them how to do this. And that's really how it started. So I've had 4 different students that are still with me today. Actually, we're just in the woods today that help me maintain my research, and they're actually contributors to my research. So overall goals and objectives. I worked really hard with Menominee Tribal Enterprises to say, okay, what do we really need? I'm not going to just design this program. It's kind of willy-nilly, like, okay, you kids are going to learn about forestry. What do we really want to get out of this? So like I said before, we improve the recruitment and retention of the MTE workforce, and not just according to the current plan. We know that we need a specialized workforce moving forward. We know that we need people in entomology. We need people in data science. We need people that can really handle the needs associated with climate change. So how can we get these kids to really get into those areas? The forest management plan has sections that are dedicated to education and outreach, but they're very vague. They don't have any kind of strategy to them. They're basically, okay, we like technology. We like to partner with people. We like to, you know, engage with the community, but there, you know, really was no context to it. So I said, okay, we're going to develop this framework, and we're going to insert that. We're going to insert that into the forest management plan. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what I said. That's what we all agreed is going to happen, and that's where we're at right now. We're taking the kids through the whole forest management operation process. So we're not just taking them for a tour in the mill. They're going from start to beginning. Every department, every job, and they get to tour the forest, work with every department, every day, job shadow, much more like the history. We'll go over the philosophy, and we see the spectrum of the careers and the needs across MTE. And also, this is a really good opportunity, and I know that this is a valid need because of my own children, but there is a need for alternative learning in our community. We're not producing the graduates and the people that are going into undergraduate studies, or the people that can work at MTE as professional foresters. You know, myself, I wasn't an awesome student in high school. Even my undergrad, I struggled. You know, I'm not a person that can sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day. I really didn't start doing great work until I got into graduate school. And we can recognize that, and this is an opportunity for kids to get out of the classroom and join us in this learning process. And we knew that this is one thing too, is even as a manager at another tribe, we often took in kids and we kind of used them as child labor, and they never really learned anything. And that's how I felt, and that was the feedback that we got. But we never had any written feedback or assessed their experience working for us. And I knew that that was junk. You know, if we're going to teach kids, we're gonna show them the way, and we're going to give them quality and not quantity. If I only take 4 kids for a year, that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to give them all the attention in the world, and this is going to be a positive experience. So we know that we want to design a program that was like multifaceted, that reached kids at different levels, but we want it to be manageable and be a quality program. So within my program, we have 3 different areas. So we have a field technician and internship, which is something that's been 3 years in the works. So basically, I mean, they're full-time employees. They work with me in the woods. They get dropped off here at my house in the morning because I'm not affiliated with the tribe anymore as an employee. I'm a graduate student. I do have research MOUs with both tribes because I'm working on a research question that's directly tied to management. The kids come here, all my research equipment is here at my house. We ride around in my own Jeep, we ride around the woods, and we take care of the maintenance at my sites. And then when we're not directly working on my sites, maybe we'll meet up with foresters, maybe we'll meet up with other people that are doing things in the woods. And I make sure that we have like a lesson for that day. So the first year was paid through the Mortgage Center. This year actually was paid for biological systems engineering. And we have a couple opportunities to keep this internship going, but the plan there is really prepare them for forest research. Not everybody's gonna go into that field, and I recognize that, but here's an opportunity. You know, I had to wait till I was 36 years old to really understand how to get into a research program and what I was gonna do and how to find an advisor. And there are a bunch of questions that in our forest management program that we do need to answer. So actually my research has actually built the infrastructure to keep it going for long-term monitoring. So if another student within our reservation wanted to pick up that research or add questions, it's there. So I'm really glad that we designed it that way. So the youth forestry cohort is from my pool of internships and from the younger kids that I work with. Whatever opportunity comes up, I'll just call them up and be like, hey, you want to do this? And we go do it. So last week we went to a Society of American Foresters conference. And, you know, and I knew they maybe wouldn't last the whole day, but it's experience, right? I want them to get comfortable talking to people. I want them to see what it's like. They're in high school. They're not going to understand everything, but with me there, and it's not like a very serious issue. We're not there to present. It's not so uptight. You know, these little experiences I think are going to add up, and they're going to better prepare them for my students have only seen our forest. They're only familiar with our management. So I think it's really important that we really start expanding and seeing other efforts in forest management. And today, Jessie, am I going way over? I'm sorry. I'm gonna just keep talking, but
yeah, I think our next speaker's here, but if you want to take a minute to wrap up, and then if anybody has a question for you, and then we'll transition over to Vernon.
Okay, let me just go over I'll try to hurry up here. So the youth forestry experience. So I have 4 younger kids, and I didn't take applications, and I think this is a great thing. Is basically I put a post out on social media. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take 4 kids this summer. There's no application. You don't have. All I need is someone that's interested, someone that isn't scared to get dirty. I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna teach you things. You're not. You know, this is. You know, if you don't want to do this is like go into forestry, that's fine. I just want people to learn and experience. And I got applicants real fast. I got people who are like, hey, I want to do this. One of them was just coming out of 8th grade, and I was like, ooh, I don't know. But finally I was like, okay, let's do it. So this year, Earth Partnership paid for these 4 kids to hang out with me for 3 weeks on MTE Foresters. So we wanted to validate age-appropriate activities and refine future programming. I didn't know if it was going to be appropriate to be taking these kids to the mill or be taking these kids to harvest sites. Apprentice joint implementation. So MTE gives a lot of like a lot of tours, and I know that, and they're pretty good at it. They have this down, but I wanted to make sure that this went smoothly with kids because they don't have a lot of kids out there. Taking forever. Oh my God. Okay. Here are some just pictures. Obviously, I take these kids and I you know, they have experience working on my research. So here they am. Not everybody, you know, has worked in wetlands before. People don't know that people work in wetlands, or this is a specific area of expertise or work. You know, that is really my love. I'm a wetland person. So that was the favorite part of mine, but the least favorite of the kids. So I know. Here on the right, we have the kids with the marking crew. They spent the day with the marking crew, which is really great because the spectrum of ages on the marking crew, you know, we have people that are ready to retire, but we have kids that are just graduated from high school. So, you know, they heard stories from the old timers and why they do this work. And then we have kids, then they could relate to kids that were, you know, in high school with them maybe 2 years ago, or, you know, maybe their cousin works on there, and it was a comfortable situation for them. And also on the bottom here is, you know, it was good for them to have like little 10 minutes of breaks. You know, the kids love to go in the garages, you know, at forestry and play around on all these equipment. And I realized how important that is. You know, they were fascinated by fire trucks. You know, these are high school kids, but they really do need the opportunity to play around with the equipment and see what it's like, you know, to have this type of job. They actually put up my flux tower. So part of my research involves measuring evapotranspiration from black ash forests. I can't do this without a flux tower. And so actually this is like the first flux tower that was put up on tribal land. And I have 2 of them. And these kids helped me put up the tower. So they're embedded in science here. On the right, you'll see there's an undergrad who just graduated from UW. His name is Luis Suarez. He's also a masonry expert. So he was the only contractor I could find out of 20 people I called to actually come up to the res and lay concrete for me to get this tower in there. And the kids loved working with him. You know, he's like 22 years old. They're probably weirded out because, you know, I have a child that's the same age as these kids. So they're kind of like, oh, you know, I don't want to really talk to Saucerman's mom too much, but, you know, I had people with me and they could relate to and they look up to him and they're like, you know, asking about his you know, studies and what he does, and it was a good experience for the kids. Field technicians. So actually, I just took 2 of my students to are certified climbers and rescue. So here they are. They just finished that programming, and I have kids that can actually work on my research that contributes to management planning. So I'm pretty proud of that. On the bottom, there's a lot of things that, or here's a good point. There's a lot of things that we couldn't do with the kids that we had to take to my house. So like the kids couldn't learn how to do vehicle maintenance or learn how to change tires. So this was something that we had to do in my yard. And there's a couple of things like that. So moving forward, as we plan this program, MTE's insurance and just we have to learn how to make space and how to really negotiate to include our kids in everything we do. So I took a long time, sorry. But if you have any questions or comments, I'm at UW-Madison. I'm in the Trowbridge lab in Forest and Wildlife Ecology, and I'm on Twitter.
Excellent, thank you. Wewena and Angela. Participants, if you have questions for Angela, please go ahead and put those in the chat. And please join me, Wewena and Angela. It's exciting to hear about this. Our next speaker is here with us. Please join me in welcoming in Mr. Mishiken Hashkwebedang. Welcome in. I see your screen name. I gave it a shot. Vernon Altiman. I'm Jessie Conaway, and I work together with Sarah Gordon. So hello, welcome in, Bindigain. Good to see you. Folks, please join me in welcoming in Mr. Michiken Hashkwebidang, who is joining us as to talk about the Elder in Residence program at UW-Milwaukee, and this will be our last speaker. And so, Mr. Altiman, if you want to go ahead and speak until about 6:25, Rach, if that's okay, and then we'll do our wrap up because we're running over. I want to give you plenty of time. So 6:20, 6:25, okay? And thanks, welcome in. Turning the mic over to you, sir.
Bonjour. Anishna, and then we marketing dog Michigan go, Michigan go then. So I guess my screen name is appropriate to this. It actually is taken from my ancestral grandfather on my mother's side, whose name was Eshkwebidong, which actually translate loosely to the last one there. So being the last one at the particular place at that particular time. So I'm glad to be here with you all today. Thank you for having me. So I landed in the United States 3 years ago and did some teaching over at University of Wisconsin-Platteville for a couple of years, and COVID struck and I was baffled in what I was supposed to do because I'm a land-based face-to-face kind of instructor on the land. And so there I was. We actually did some forestry work doing fire research up in Itasca State Park, studying the ancestral fires of the forest up there through the tree rings with Dr. Evan Larson over there at Platteville. But anyway, I transitioned over here to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in January with the idea of incorporating traditional knowledge into Western education here at the university. There's a lot of urban people, students that never have access to any kind of traditional practices, and then transforming that or incorporating that into several different disciplines, understanding it as science or presenting it as science. So anyway, so there had been talk of bringing this type of element to the university over the last couple of years while I was in town here. So I was a Anishinaabe Ojibwe language instructor at Queen's University in Canada before I came over here. So we try to incorporate, of course, language in everything we do, and we study the philosophy behind it, deep-rooted philosophy that goes back a long ways, of course, and presenting Anishinaabe Ichigawan, or the way of doing things, the way of understanding our universe, and looking at that way of understanding as research. So how did our ancestors understand the universe? And they didn't go sit in a classroom with a bunch of elders and teach them, but they sat in circles and they sat in sacred ceremonies and they did everything in a sacred way. So that's how we wanted to do things here. We wanted to take our students out into the forest. For instance, last spring we commenced with a sugar bush ceremony, and then we went into the process of harvesting sweet water and transforming it, of course, into Zinzibakwit, Zinzibakwit. So we made maple sugar and we made maple syrup, of course, and explaining that and presenting it in a sacred fashion. We started out with, we have to, the real educators here are the trees. The real educators are those that actually live here in the forest. So understanding that, how do you communicate that to them? How do you make these requests? And we do it the way our ancestors have done it. We we presented it with song and ceremony and offerings and requests. We actually asked these trees, can we harvest your sap as our ancestors did? And of course, we got to be able to listen to what the answer is, of course. And so we went ahead and received our answer, and we went ahead and harvested our maple sap, and we had presented in a scientific fashion. And we want students to be able to articulate that scientifically and understanding the process of this transformation of this special sap that had been given to us thousands of years ago. And of course, today, people all across North America enjoy it on their pancakes and waffles and in their tea. And of course, we had this this sugar we used a long ago. And then we have, of course, it's a new program, but our ideas, of course, have been here for millennia. So we had a quick Menominee camp here. We processed some wild rice. We went up and actually harvested some wild rice on one of the northern lakes, and I was working with University of or Marquette University. They've been already doing this research on how to bring back the Menominee to the southern parts of Wisconsin around the Kenote River and the adjoining river systems. There used to be a lot of wild rice all over this area, and there's none now. So they've been working on it. So we did a ceremony up on the rooftops of Marquette University there about 3 weeks ago, I guess, because that's where their lab is. It's like on the third floor, and then there's access to the rooftop, and that's where they have their little Menominee or rice beds there. So we went over, and they asked me to come and do a blessing ceremony for this wild rice, which is very appropriate. And when they brought me over to visit with them earlier in the year, they told me what they were doing, and I said, yeah, this is usually protocol involved with what we're doing here. We should actually give thanks to this rice and speak to it and give it an opportunity to present itself in a good way to what it is we need to do for them so that we can help it. So communication is critical, of course, and that's the way it is in any kind of work that we do. Anybody, not just Indigenous people, but the communication process is critical. So we did the same thing over there. We expressed to them, it's important that we put our offerings out there, and we expressed to the spirit what it is we're asking and what it is we want to do. So that was the point of having an elder in residence. And again, like I said, I came from Canada, and it's not an unusual thing to have an elder in residence that provides traditional knowledge and ceremonial process, and the capacity to be able to assist with healing processes, because a lot of our students that come from communities, reservation communities, end up in an urban setting. Sometimes there's a lot of differences that are taught historically in these different disciplines, and some of them are not really true to Indigenous people. So we run into a lot of trauma, historical trauma, and other things that we don't learn about till we're hitting the post-secondary level of education. And when those things happen, it hurts. And where do you take that pain to release it, and how do you help these students engage and be able to get past those things? Sometimes a lot of our students will drop out. So this is speaking from a Canadian viewpoint. A lot of students will drop out after a couple of years and learning some of these things that aren't true. So we wanted to make sure we had a place here where we can share Indigenous knowledge. There are those that have never been out to an Indigenous community in northern Wisconsin or anywhere for that matter. Most of their cultural applications or experiences are based around powwows and little workshops here and there. And so our goal here is to actually take some students from here and go up and participate in some of these activities, maybe go harvest wild rice up north, maybe go spearfishing in some of these places, and and bring the community to them, or bring them to the community, as well as give them that Indigenous land-based education that has kind of eluded a lot of people for a long time. So we have a fire circle here now. There was nothing here for years, and they just put it in last year. So we have a place now that we can call ours, where we can actually have a fire, sacred fires, and people can come and offer their tobacco at any time. When we're having a fire, we have a regular fire every Friday, and then we have special occasion fires for memorials, for honoring, for many things. So the position itself as elder in residence is it's multi-level, I guess the best way to put it, because we go out and harvest wood. We harvest our own wood for our fire circle sacred fires. We pick medicines, of course. We prep everything ourselves. Bring in the medicines that we use for smudging and for opening other ceremonies and other events. So we just had a powwow here about this past weekend. We had a sacred fire running during that powwow. We had a sunrise ceremony for that to begin. So we're trying to show that there's a lot of integrity in Indigenous knowledge, and it's important to remember the essentials. If we're going to do research and be interacting and taking things from the land, we need to do it in a good way, and always offer and express to the spirit what it is that we're doing and the benefit of it, and how that's going to be reciprocal to those that are participating. So I'm just trying to see if it looks like my screen is frozen or something. I'm trying to make sure it's not. So this is a very new position, basically. I don't know if that question's for me there, but so we have various tribal affiliations here as well. We have Ho-Chunk, we have Menominee, we have Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Oneida, Stockbridge, Munsee. So we have all these different tribal affiliations. So we're hoping to bring in various other specialists in different areas of different cultural practices, and bring those into the system here as well, where we can share in each other's cultural practices, and always remember to do it in a sacred way when it comes to educating. So it's in the beginning stages, but there are many opportunities that we are going to be implementing based on language education and the cultural practices of all our nations here. So I think we got a lot of time left, or we got like 10 minutes left, but I'm going to leave it open to you if you have any specific questions. I think summarizing that whole, there's many cultural activities that we have and so many different activities with the different tribes we have here. So we could go on and on. We have drum group. We have, I've been a counselor, so I'll do naming ceremonies. We'll do rite of passage ceremonies. We'll have these all available for our students. Okay.
Are you inviting? Hi, this is Rachel Byington. Sorry, my camera is not working. I don't know why, but are you opening it up for questions at this time?
Yes, I am, because I kind of just basically summarized what's happening with the elder in residence position, and most of the it's really new position. So we've only been active since this semester, basically, but it is, we did last year the sugar bush in the spring, and we're going to do more harvesting stuff. We're going to bring in and have an organic garden here. We're going to be doing food sovereignty and that sort of thing. So I'm going to open it up for questions if there's any.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I had some cool pictures too that I had from our sugar bushing and our rice camp and that sort of thing.
Okay. Do you want to share those, or do you want to go to questions, or both? We have time.
No, I don't know how to get those pictures up here. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Jessie here. Sorry about my internet issue, but I'm back on my phone here. Miigwech, Mr. Altiman, for joining in and for sharing. Would like to open it up for questions. I know Rach is here helping with facilitation too. So participants would like to invite you in to engage with Mr. Altiman if you have questions about his program or how it came to be, or how you might apply it in your institutions that you're working in. Those are some of the things I'm thinking about. Participants, bring it in. Let's ask questions of our speaker, opening up the floor and inviting questions, comments, discussion.
I just wanted to ask Vern to mention a little bit about the sweat lodge that's going to go right on campus there and some of the challenges around that.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I had met with the director here, with the struggle of finding a land base to actually facilitate a sweat lodge ceremony. And we looked about, and I had, it seems to be a struggle because I come from Canada and there's a lot of land and reservation. You can just go put up a lodge. So it's a little strange here because elder in the city kind of thing. But so yeah, I met with Margaret Newton at the time, and she said, that sounds like a good opportunity, a good thing to do. So we started looking around the land here, and it looked like there was some spots, and it still hasn't materialized yet, but we're working on it. And today, the new director of the Elected Pony Institute, who is funding my position, we had met over the last couple of days, and we had scouted the land out yesterday, and then there's several opportunities, I guess, or different ways that we can approach it. And I think we're going to approach it in the fashion that we have already had been approved of, which is the fire circle. I think we're going to add on to the fire circle and put our sweat lodge right in line with that. We're going to have to do some modifications of our circle, however, which shouldn't be too hard. I mean, we have some probably 300 or 400 pound rocks we have to move with probably machinery, but I think we're going to get it done. And the purpose of that is in our Indigenous practices, of course, and I was taught this years ago that this is basically our classroom, and it's our holistic classroom where we can engage the spirit. And if you're going to be doing something in an Indigenous fashion, it's always important to understand that as holistic people, no matter what nation we come from. So that's being guided by the spirit. And so you need someone to actually guide you to be able to understand it and listen to the spirit. So this place, the Sweat Lodge again, is going to be, I'm sitting probably 50 feet from where it's going to be, actually out in front of Merrill Hall here. And, I've been doing this type of work for many years, and the elders used to, there's a side that says, we need to keep it hidden. And then there's a part of us that, we don't have to hide anymore to do our ceremonies. So we come to the point where we're going to put it right out in the open here, and we're going to invite people. And it's not new for me to do that. I did a sweat lodge for a group of Catholic folks maybe a couple of months ago, and they were very engaged and very grateful for what they experienced. And that's hopefully what we're going to bring here for our students and give them a place to release some of that vicarious trauma that may be involved with being educated in an institution like this. Give them a place to unload that you know, the feelings that go on you know, you can build up this energy that is picked up from various disciplines that were trying to be learned or taught, and you need a place to go release that stress. You know, you get a lot of homework, there's a lot of pressure on you when you're in an institution like this, so we want to make sure we have this place for them to be able to do that. And again, it's a place where we'll facilitate other educational practices too, like naming ceremonies and rite of passage ceremonies, and of course purification ceremonies when we want to engage in a sacred thing, sacred practice. If we want to research and understand how to get closer to the trees, or how to get closer to the eagles, or how to get closer to our relatives that have been here for a long time, as well as we need to do that in a good way. And a good way of doing that is make sure you're being able to listen with your heart and your spirit. And how you do that is by so we want to, probably the most educational time in my life was my first vision quest, or my first fast, some 30-something years ago. You know, a lot of fears I had, I didn't know. So it was during this vision quest, or this fasting ceremony, that provided. So in order to do those things, you need the preliminary, or the prerequisite to get into that. And that is basically purification, going into the sweat lodge first, and then doing that research by sitting on the land, if you're going to be doing working with the various environmental things that we do today. So we're going to go out there, and they said we're going to just do it and see what the consequences are, if there are any, which we don't think there is, because we are already approved. And that's what the manager of this space had told us. He said, go ahead and do what you got to do. So that's the next step here.
Miigwech for sharing. Sarah, thank you, Miigwech, for your questions, Sarah. Inviting in others, other questions,
We have a
comments,
question.
Discussion. Go ahead.
UW-Madison, we're hosting an Indigenous elder for 1 week. We've had the Indigenous elder in residence programs that have been 1 week so far. And beginning on November 4th, we'll have, or November 7th, the week of November 7th through 11th, we have Ho-Chunk Elder Janice Rice, who will be the elder in residence at UW-Madison. And I don't know, as you know, since we're kind of also a new program, but a little less kind of infrastructure and kind of structure for how the elder might engage our students over a long period of time. You know, do you think it'd be beneficial to kind of connect our elders in residence at UW-Milwaukee and UW-Madison to kind of think about how these roles can support students and support folks as they grow and learn within our institutions?
I think there's definitely opportunity for collaboration, and I think it's important. One of the main things is a lot of students, and Sarah had mentioned that earlier today, is that, you know, none of these students many of these students may have never even gotten out of the city in their lifetime, let alone be to an Indigenous community. So we're trying to reverse that. We're trying to make that available to them here, where, you know, if somebody wants, I know myself growing up, I haven't had an elder to speak to at all. I had no guidance when I was a kid, and, you know, I killed birds and snakes and did all these awful things that, you know, are unacceptable today for my children. And I was able to teach them that, you got to be kind to these animals. That's what we do. So I learned the hard way, and I didn't run into an elder until I was in my first year of college, when I was 27 years old. An elder by Elder Rufus Goodstriker. He's the late Rufus Goodstriker. He's a Blackfoot from northern Montana. And he came into our Native Studies class when I left the res and went back to college, and he spoke, and I was like, wow, he actually put his hand on my forehead, and I was like freaked out, and I was like, whoa. But after that, you know, it was like, man, I saw who I was. I went out and tried to figure out who I was in this world, and actually came to this place now. Here I am. So I think it's really important to have, and to be able to get along the various tribes that are here. Where, you know, we may have had conflict long ago, but it's time to settle those conflicts and work together and show these students that, you know, we can collaborate and we can be in the same space. And I've seen this type of thing many times in Canada work this way, where we can work together.
Excellent. Miigwech, Mr. Altiman. Other questions for our guest? Mr. Altiman, other questions from our participants?
I have one. This is Rachel. I know you said it's new and you kind of had some preliminary activities from last year that you were able to build on, but just, I mean, it sounds amazing. Actually, all of the programs that have been spoken about tonight in terms of Native education pathways sound amazing to support students at different stages and in different ways. But I'm wondering, what are I mean, it sounds amazing. What are your initial thoughts about how students are experiencing having an elder in residence year round, kind of connecting them, reconnecting them with culture, all these things? Like, I'm just kind of wondering if you have some thoughts on the impact of the program so far.
Well, I'm very, I'm positive that we're moving in the right direction, and it may not be this gigantic, you know, explosion of 200 students, Indigenous students wanting to be here immediately. I know from experience it doesn't work like that with an elder. To be able to formulate a relationship, you know, you can't just jump into a situation and demand respect from anybody. It's basically through, you know, you have to earn that from people, and being able to be present and available is the thing that's important. And if we can get this sweat lodge up and we can get the sacred things happening around here, they're going to come, and again, the floodway will be open, I'm sure.
Thank you. Miigwech.
I don't know if I answered the question, but I guess in that, you know, we have, like, having an open space outside and having a fire, and with the sugar bush in the spring, not only Indigenous folks come here, we had neighbors coming over and being inquisitive. We had visiting students from Eastern Africa. We had people from Egypt. We had people from East India, like all over. They all came and really wanted to see what was going on and wanted to learn and hear some of the things what we were doing. So they're pretty impressed by. They've never seen how maple syrup was made before, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's, you know." So it's not only our students, but we're presenting all this information and education to the people that have never seen this kind of stuff before. So my next thing is I'm doing a buffalo hide. I'm tanning a buffalo hide, and it's in downtown Chicago right now, one of my friends' places. And because we didn't have the space, I didn't know where we're going to be doing this thing. So at the time, I brought it back from Canada, and we started doing it over there. So, but I am going to bring it on site here and going to smoke it here, and we're going to have people coming over. Hey, what's going on here? So it's kind of just our. We're kind of like the fishbowl in the center of the universe. Center of the university. I was going to be center of the universe. So kind of at this time, we're presenting this live stuff going on right here. It's Indigenous based.
Sounds awesome.
I just wanted to say something too, Rachel. One of the things I noticed, we did a bear ceremony in February of last year, and it was for the Bear Moon. And it was something that I had not experienced because in the northern part of Wisconsin, we don't have a bear moon. It's a suckerfish moon. But in the southern part of the state, there is a bear moon. And anyway, so several of the students had been in multiple like Ojibwe language classes with me. Like as students, I was a student as well. And they said they had never been to a ceremony before. And so they were all really new to it. I mean, and these were people who have been in the university studying language and still hadn't had the opportunity to connect with someone to show them, you know, the ceremonial process. So to me, that was right there. I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I guess, you know, for lack of better words, we call it, you know, ceremony, but it's basically just honoring our relatives, you know, the bears, the wolves, those are all our relatives, the thunder beings. We want to make sure, you know, that it's, you know, in Canada, we hear all these different names and titles of different ceremonies that are going on, but basically it's, you know, we're making communication and we're collaborating with the spirit, and the spirit of the bear is really critically important for many reasons and many different tribal affiliations. But for Anishinaabe, I was shown this ceremony from the elders in Treaty 3 area, which is way up by, you know, the Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Minnesota Ontario border in Manitoba. So yeah, so these types of things are really important for our communities and for people to understand that these helpers were there for a long, long time. And one of the most important ones is the thunder ceremonies that come in the spring and the fall. And who knows that stuff? So that's what we're going to teach, and we got to be ready for that.
Well, I don't see Jessie. She might have gotten booted off again. We're getting close to wrapping up time here. This is amazing. I'd love to continue to hear about the programs. When I think about Native education pathways and how these can make education meaningful for Native youth, I look forward to how we can continue to learn and grow and strengthen these pathways. So that's kind of where what I'm going to talk about next to close us out for this evening. I wanted to share my screen. Let's see if this works and that I don't get booted off here. Can you all see my screen here? It's a slideshow. So in year one with this Native New Beginnings for Tribal Students Education Pathways funding that we received, we worked over a year to kind of identify pathways and what they look like and what are some of those barriers. So I just kind of want to point out what we've learned in the first year. We know we're not done learning yet. I learned so much about these awesome programs this evening, but there was kind of this slide here represents the barriers, the strategies that we need to overcome, and then some of those things that we know that work. So I'm just going to name off kind of the 7 areas that we have identified. So this idea of multi-stakeholder collaboration, you know, you can't just do things in silos. We need to work together and build on each other's works, from the, you know, little kids, their education, home, preschool, before school, all the way up through college level, and for students not going on to college. Cultural competency, funding, big issue. We know Angela pointed out some just things that maybe we don't think about. Do students need shoes or a good, you know, solid, sturdy jacket? Cultural competency, we need our students to actually feel like that they're receiving a quality education. They don't feel othered in their classrooms, that they feel a part of their education. Communication, we know it's really important. We're here tonight communicating with each other. Amazing stuff that we're learning. Internships, mentoring, and youth programming. I like how we use this space to identify how do we overcome challenges and working together. I heard Aaron offer out a very concrete solution for helping Jeff with WITCAT and overcoming some of the challenges that they have. So that communication piece in helping with how do we get internships? How do we get students to apply? Authentic curriculum, we know that's really important. My work has been a lot in the school system, and knowing how important it's two sides of a coin. It's not just about the resources, but also the content knowledge and having knowledge about that. And then holistic student support. It's not just what's in the classroom, it's what's on the outside of the classroom that's even more important. So those are kind of some of the areas that we have been identified. We know there's a lot of work to do. I want to invite you all to continue. Some of you have been involved in various aspects, but what I would like to do is to share a sign-up sheet. It doesn't, you're not, signing your life away or anything like that. What I'd like to do is share this here in our chat. If I can find the chat, here's the chat. If you want to continue to be involved in some level with looking at what we need to do to, what we really want to do is strengthen these pathways. We can't focus on what's not working. Well, let's focus on what we know is working. So some thoughts are sharing more about your program. We do want to work on developing a brief, maybe a recommendation paper, or maybe it's a policy paper. We've kind of talked about different aspects. So if you want, sign up there. Jessie is going to send out a follow-up email. This link will be in there. So if you don't want to sign up right now, she can include that. But we do want to keep learning about the programs. Oh, okay. Let me work on that. And let's see here. I might have to do something. It might just have to go through the email, because right now I'm not seeing exactly what the problem is. Interviews, so helping with the paper, maybe writing something up, all those are various ideas for ways to get involved. And like I said, Jessie's going to send out that follow-up email with some of this additional information to wrap us up. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessie and
okay.
let her close us out.
Yeah, Rach, thanks for picking that up. And yeah, we can share that form for gauging interest and that invitation that Rachel talked about, so we can share that in a follow-up. And I just want to say miigwech to Mr. Altiman and our other speakers who joined in today. And thank you to each of you for joining this and supporting our work. And have a great night, and be strong, be well, be safe. Diego Webman.